Okay, so let's have a look at how the space works, and we'll use one of the tools and we'll do a little drawing. And then we can see all of these different toolbars and panels and so forth in action. All right, so I'm going to grab a line tool from my tools on the left-hand side. I'm going to be drawing in this 3D space here where you can see I've got my reference model there for my scale, and I'm going to draw in this space. Now, on the status bar at the bottom of the working space, this will always give you information about your tools. So it's telling you to click to set a first endpoint, and then I can use the arrow keys to lock the direction. So on that axis that I want to draw on, I can use the arrow keys to lock that. So whenever you're using a tool from your toolbar here, the status will tell you information. Remember, it's got the help key that you can search for different things if if you're getting lost and you need some help. But it will always have these little shortcut prompts to help you use the tools if you're not sure what they do. Okay, so I'm going to click to set my first endpoint, and then I'm going to draw a line along this red axis. Now, if I'm without clicking the second time, you can see that the line will just move in any different direction. If I use the arrow keys and I use the right arrow key, it locks it along that axis. And now you can see that even though I'm moving my cursor up and down, it will only move along the red axis. If I use the up arrow key, it will move along the blue axis. So I can actually set using the arrow keys to go on each of these different axes. Okay, and that's really important. If I want to go on the green, it's a left, red is right, and up is the blue. So that's really important. That'll become really important later on when you're trying to build and do parallel lines and so forth. But it's just important to understand that that's how we can control that. So I do my first click, I'm moving along the red axis. I then do my second click, and that puts in my endpoint, my second endpoint. Now I'm going to move along the green axis, and then I'm going to put my endpoint. I'm going to move back along the red axis, click for an endpoint, and then I'm going to come back along this green axis. Now, when I get to this point, you might have noticed there that it will actually indicate a little snap to line up with that point there. So if I want to make a perfect square, I can actually use that little snap to do that. So now it looks a little bit funny because of the perspective. So it's actually moving back in it and it doesn't look square because of the perspective, but don't worry about that. That is a square on the red and green axis. So then I can grab a push-pull tool and I can add that third dimension to that. By selecting in that space, I can then drag that up. And now I have a three-dimensional shape. Over on the bottom right, you can see the distance there. So as I was drawing those shapes, and in fact, if I just go back a little bit here, we'll see that distance one more time. So keep an eye on this bottom right here. As I click and pull that distance, now I could actually type, if I want to set that to be, say, 1 meter, 1,000 millimeters, I can just type straight in there, and that will actually make that 1,000. So you can either drag it for the distance or you can type. You don't need to click into that distance box. If you are moving along a distance and you start typing, SketchUp will just infer that that's what you're wanting to do and it will set that distance for you. Okay, so I can now select this shape. I can select a face of the shape, or I can select the entire object. Over here in my panels, on the right-hand side, I can inspect that and I can see the entity. So it will show me information about that. It will show me information about the materials. It will show me a whole bunch of stuff in the panels option. Okay, so I'm going to hide those panels again, and I can come up here and I'm happy with my build. I might want to save that as well. Okay, so I can save as on that build. Um, I- and that's just a quick little intro to using these drawing tools, the status, the measurements, and the columns.